So, Ben, let's talk about Termi again and where Helm 360 has gone in reference to development. Where do you envision Termi going from perspective of helping attorneys, helping the finance department, and from a technology perspective?
So let me start with where it began, because ultimately, what we started with was a problem, right? Ultimately, a problem that we were trying to solve. Now, in my previous life, where I was responsible for some of the big three implementations, one of the frustrating things that I was kind of hearing a lot, pretty much every customer I would go to, was that the adoption of the software that was being implemented was very low at attorney level in particular, right? And that was really, really surprising to me, because, you had these big major law firms spending millions of dollars on a solution, which was a great solution, done everything it said on the tin. But ultimately, when it came down to going live, the bottom line is that they just weren't using it. They were offloading that function to some support function within the firm, whether that be a secretary or your finance team. And there's one specific kind of moment that I remember where I'd gone to New York to go and visit a firm who was implementing 3, and we were sat with the managing partner, and throughout the implementation, this particular managing partner had been really vocal about what they wanted from the product, and they wanted to be hands-on. He wanted his team to be hands-on. He wanted to be part of the billing process so that he knew what was going out to his customers, and he wanted all of the attorneys that worked for him to do the same. So they were part of pretty much every design session that we went through to build a really nice billing workflow for them. They wanted mobile approvals, so we gave them mobile approvals. Back in those days, they had BlackBerry still, so they wanted it to work on a BlackBerry as well as iOS devices. So really, they'd really thought through their day-to-day experience and how they wanted this to work. And we implemented exactly what they wanted. They spent a lot of money just customizing the workflow to be what they wanted it to be. I went back to visit the firm after a few months of them being live and sat down with the managing partner and asked him about his experience. And he said, look, Bim, the finance team loved the product. We can see that it's going to bring huge time savings to us. It's more efficient. We're getting better data out of it. Everything I'm hearing is positive. But I have to tell you that we're not using it. Like, my team's not using it. So I was a bit confused and asked him why. And he said it's really about the user experience, right? He said, by the time I go into the application and I click 3 times to get to my billing workflow screen, I could have sent a message to my billing secretary and she can go and do it for me. And what that allows me to do is go and practice law, focus on my clients, do all the things that I'm being paid the big bucks to do, right? And I think that was a really eye-opening moment for me. That fundamentally kind of tells us what the problem is here, right? The solutions that we implement, and not just the attorney level, but pretty much, anyone can kind of relate to this in some shape or form, right? Whatever solution we have today needs to be so simple that it's as simple as sending that message to somebody, something, a bot, and for it to be able to understand what I'm asking for and for it to make it happen, right? Wherever that may be. And that's really what started us on the journey of building Termi. And really what it started out as was, how do we bridge the gap between all of these best of breed systems that we know exist within a law firm, because we know that they're going to have a specific system for their time entry, a specific system for their expenses, for their practice management, their case management, their financials. Like, all of these systems could be different, right, ultimately, and typically are. And the user experience of those solutions are going to be different. Functionally, they're going to achieve what they need to achieve, but there's nothing really bridging the gap. Yes, you have integration sitting on the back end, allowing the systems to talk to each other, but nobody's really thinking about, how does my end user actually interact with all of these systems, and how do we bring those things together? But the problem that Termi is trying to solve is bringing all of those elements together into a very unique user experience that's embedded into your everyday productivity tool set, right? So as I mentioned earlier, Outlook, the Office suite in general, everywhere you go, you can basically embed Termi into that experience so that it is with you on your desktop, on your mobile, wherever you might be. And the idea is that it is as simple as sending a message, right? So whenever we get a new problem that we're trying to solve with Termi, the first question we ask ourselves is, how do we make this user experience for whatever it might be, whether it's performing a conflict search from Termi, or creating data, creating a new matter from within Termi, or whatever it might be. We will always ask ourselves, how do we do this in the most efficient way, right? How do we do this in a way that doesn't involve multiple clicks, can be as simple as asking the system to go and do this for me with minimal input from the end user, because ultimately that's what's going to drive adoption, and that's really what we're trying to achieve here. And just to kind of wrap that up, where we kind of see it going is really to extend the experience beyond just what we do today in terms of integrating with core systems, but really allowing individuals to be able to really get on with their day, right? Get on with their working day, and have Termi sitting in the background, assisting them throughout the day proactively. Whether I'm in email or I'm writing a document, it being auto-suggested that it can go and do something for me without me having to think about it. Like a great example, and we actually have this today in the technology, is not having to worry about the fact that I've been to 5 meetings this week with a particular client, and I have all of those things scheduled within my calendar, but then actually making a conscious effort to go and log that time in the time entry system. The great thing about Termi is that it can go and connect those dots together. So it can go back to the time entry system. It can go and pull that data. It can go back to your calendar, go and pull that data and go and sync the two together to see what's missing, and then prompt you to accelerate the process of entering that time and making sure that it's relevant, making sure you're getting input from the lawyer in terms of what specifically they worked on, so that your narrative is good, all of that kind of stuff, but making it really, really easy and intuitive to do, and make it accessible, right? So that you can do it anywhere. I mean, you can really think about any problem that you have from a technology perspective or a process perspective within a law firm. The way we've architected Termi is really to allow you to rapidly build really mini applications on top of it with the same premise in mind. So whatever you're doing today that involves you opening up a browser and going to a web page and filling out a form can ultimately be transformed into a much more streamlined experience through Termi, talking to whatever API is sitting behind that, or web services sitting behind that, to kind of improve the overall flow of data within the organization.
Wow. So thank you so much for that. So Termi will help me improve my business process, will assist me in my day-to-day tasks, and that will be there no matter what and when I need it. And that's a pretty powerful tool. So thank you so much for walking us through, the vision of where Helm 360 is taking Termi, and how we're here to assist them and guide them and really focus on customer satisfaction. And that's really part of why Termi came about as well, is really listening and collaborating and understanding what their needs are and how do we assist them. Is there anything else, Bim, that you would like to say before we move on to our next topic down in the future?
Just to say that with the current challenges that we face in the economy today, with COVID and the impact that it's having on pretty much every part of our working lives and personal lives, one of the things that I will say is that we're really focused on how we can improve the bottom line of a business, right? That's really what it comes down to. How do we make sure that we can do a better job of being more efficient and helping our customers be more efficient? But there's other things to consider with this new way of working, right, that really have come to the forefront of our conversations with customers, particularly over the recent months. And really what it comes down to is how do we engage with one another, right, in a different way when we're not sitting in an office, sitting opposite one another, right? I hear about some of the challenges that a lot of distributed law firms are facing at the moment with their employees distributed in this manner, and just not having that same level of collaboration that they could have while they're in the office. And you just think about simple scenarios where you have a new person being onboarded remotely from their home and trying to get them to learn the systems that you use, understand how to interact with the various business processes that you have within the firm, and how you accelerate that learning curve, right? Because when you're sat next to your mentor in the office, it's much easier to do that handoff of knowledge versus when you're not sitting next to somebody who knows, right? So part of what we're doing at the moment is really focused on those kind of problems and how, again, like from a Termi perspective, how we can solve those problems. And the kind of things I'm talking about are having Termi embedded to provide a learning experience, right? So I'm sitting within a product that you have deployed within your firm, and ultimately offering up assistance, help to allow your end user to be able to do what they need to do efficiently. So really focused on how do we, in this new world, apply this kind of technology to distributed learning, and help using like a chatbot element to be able to help answer those questions really, really efficiently, and move away from that old concept of I have a portal that has all the answers to the questions. You just have to go find it, right? But the only way you can find it is by asking your colleague who's been there for 20 years. It's moving away from that concept and turning that info into knowledge bases, or making your SharePoint site more accessible through something like Termi, where I can just ask a question like, what's our gym reimbursement policy? How do I claim an expense, whatever it might be, and it going and figuring out where to get the latest source of policy information and delivering it to the end user. So really focused around getting the workforce to a point where they can actually onboard quickly, continue to evolve, learn new things in this distributed way, and giving them the tool that can allow them to do that.
Well, I'm super excited about, our next session when we're together, and thank you again. And we look forward to having more sessions going in the next couple of weeks. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been great talking to you.